The Sunday dinner started like every other. Mom had made her famous pot roast. Dad carved the meat with his usual precision. My older brother Derek sat at the head of the table like he owned the place, which in our family's eyes he basically did. Derek was the golden child. Harvard MBA. 3 years at McKinsey. Now running strategic initiatives at a mid-tier consulting firm, which mostly meant PowerPoint presentations and expense account dinners. He wore success like a custom suit, expensive, perfectly fitted, and designed to make everyone else feel underdressed. I was the younger sister. The one who had potential but never quite applied herself. 26 years old with a state school business degree and a job as a product manager at a small software company. Respectable. Forgettable. Safe. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the last 18 months building something revolutionary. I'd been working nights and weekends on an AI-powered supply chain optimization platform. The technology could reduce logistics costs by 40% for mid-market manufacturers. I'd validated the concept with 3 pilot customers. The margins were extraordinary. The scalability was proven. All I needed was $850,000 in seed funding to build the full platform and hire a sales team. I'd prepared everything. Financial projections, market analysis, competitive landscape, customer testimonials, technical architecture. I'd rehearsed my pitch 100 times. I had meetings scheduled with 4 venture capital firms over the next 2 weeks. I made one mistake. I brought my pitch deck to Sunday dinner. I'd printed a copy to review during the drive home. I left it on the entryway table when I came in. Derek saw it while hanging up his coat. "What's this?" he asked, flipping through the pages. "Just something I've been working on," I said. "A business idea." His eyebrows raised as he scanned the executive summary. Then he laughed. "Supply chain optimization? Jen, this is way outside your expertise." "I've been researching for 18 months, I said. "I've got pilot customers already generating revenue." Dad looked up from carving the roast. "What kind of revenue?" $47,000 in the last quarter. Recurring contracts. Derek flipped to the financial projections. His expression shifted from amusement to something else. Interest. Calculation. "These margins, if they're real, this could scale to $15 million in 3 years. "That's the conservative estimate," I said. Mom set down the mashed potatoes. "Honey, that's wonderful. But do you really think you're ready to run a company? You've never managed people before." "That's what I'd hire a CEO for initially," I said. "I'd focus on product development and customer relationships where I'm strongest." Derek was still reading. His jaw tightened the way it did when he was thinking. I'd seen that look before, usually right before he took credit for someone else's idea in a meeting. "When are you pitching this to investors?" he asked. "I have 4 meetings scheduled. Starting Tuesday." He set down the deck. "Jen, I'm going to be honest with you. You're going to get destroyed in those meetings." "Why?" "Because you don't know how to talk to VCs. You've never raised capital. You don't understand term sheets, valuation, dilution." He gestured at the papers. "This is good work. Genuinely impressive. But you'll walk into those meetings and they'll eat you alive. Then they'll steal your idea and fund someone with actual experience." Dad nodded slowly. "He has a point, Jennifer. I've prepared." "Preparation isn't experience," Derek interrupted. "I've sat in dozens of VC meetings. I know these people. I speak their language." He looked at Dad. "She's going to lose this opportunity." Mom touched my hand. "Honey, maybe Derek could help you? Give you some coaching?" Derek shook his head. "There's not enough time. The meetings are in 2 days." He picked up the pitch deck again, studying the technical specifications. "The idea is too good to waste." That's when I felt it. The shift in the room. The way Dad and Mom were looking at Derek instead of me. The way Derek's fingers lingered on my pages. "I'm taking your idea to investors," Derek said suddenly. "You'd just mess it up anyway." I stared at him. "Excuse me. Think about it rationally, Jen. You've done great work here. Really impressive research and development. But execution requires different skills. Skills I have and you don't." He straightened the pages. "I'll pitch this to the VCs. I'll raise the capital. I'll build the company properly. And because you're family, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Maybe a product advisor role. Equity stake. You'll still benefit. Derek, this is my company. Dad interrupted. Jennifer, let the professional handle it. Derek knows what he's doing. But I built this. You built a prototype, Derek said. I'll build an empire. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Mom smiled encouragingly. This way you don't have all that stress, honey. You can keep your stable job and still participate in the upside. I looked at the three of them. Derek holding my pitch deck like it was already his. Dad nodding with approval. Mom thinking she was being supportive. Every argument I could make would sound defensive. Emotional. Unprofessional. Everything they expected from me. So I said the only thing that wouldn't reveal how my hands were shaking under the table. Okay. Derek looked surprised. Okay. If you think that's best, I said calmly. He relaxed. You're making the right choice, Jen. I'll set up the meetings this week. We'll position this properly. You'll see. I ate my pot roast. I smiled at Mom's stories. I asked Derek polite questions about his strategy. I stayed for coffee and dessert. Then I went home and rebuilt everything from memory. The AI supply chain platform Derek stole was called OptimizeX. It was good. Very good. But I'd been holding back the truly revolutionary piece. What I hadn't shown anyone, not even my pilot customers, was the predictive modeling layer. The real innovation wasn't just optimizing current supply chains. It was using machine learning to predict disruptions before they happened and automatically reroute inventory. That technology could reduce costs by 60%, not 40%. I'd kept it proprietary, secret, because I wasn't sure I could defend the patents without proper legal resources. Now I was grateful for my paranoia. I spent the next 72 hours rebuilding my pitch deck with the predictive layer as the centerpiece. I created new financial models. I filed provisional patents on the core algorithms. I incorporated a new company, Catalyst Logistics. Then I called the 4 VC firms and rescheduled my meetings. Actually, I'd like to push to next month, I told each one. I'm adding some significant enhancements to the platform. Derek, meanwhile, was pitching OptimizeX to every investor in the Bay Area. Mom called me after his first meeting. Derek said it went wonderfully. They're very interested. That's great, I said. He's talking to 2 more firms this week. He thinks he'll have term sheets by the end of the month. Good for him. What I didn't tell her was that I was tracking every pitch Derek made. I knew which VCs he was talking to. I knew what questions they asked. I knew what objections they raised. And I was refining my platform based on everything Derek was learning. He was doing my market research for me. 6 weeks later, Derek raised $1.2 million for OptimizeX at a $4 million pre-money valuation. Dad called it the deal of the century. Mom hosted a celebration dinner. Derek gave a speech about family supporting family and announced I'd be joining as a special advisor with 2% equity. 2% of something I'd created. That he'd stolen. I smiled. I congratulated him. I signed the advisor agreement. Then I went back to building. Over the next 18 months, I operated in complete stealth mode. I kept my product manager job for cover. I told my family I was helping Derek when I could. Nobody asked for details. What I was actually doing was revolutionizing logistics technology. I hired developers through anonymous contracts. I brought on pilot customers under NDAs. I raised a small friends and family round from former colleagues, $200,000 that gave me runway to build the full platform. Catalyst Logistics launched with 3 Fortune 500 beta customers. The predictive algorithms worked even better than projected. We reduced their logistics costs by 58% on average. By month 6, we had 11 paying customers generating $340,000 in quarterly recurring revenue. By month 12, we'd raised a $4.5 million Series A led by Benchmark Capital. By month 18, we were at $2.8 million in quarterly revenue with 47 enterprise customers. Our valuation hit $62 million. And I never told my family any of it. Derek, meanwhile, was struggling. OptimizeX worked. The basic technology I'd developed was sound. But without the predictive layer, it was just another supply chain tool in a crowded market. Derek spent most of his funding on sales and marketing, trying to differentiate in a space where he was fundamentally outgunned. His customers got 35 to 40% cost reductions. Good but not revolutionary. His competitors offered similar capabilities. His burn rate was unsustainable. I watched from a distance as OptimizeX burned through its seed round in 14 months. Derek raised a $2.3 million bridge round at a flat valuation. Investor speak for, "We're keeping you alive but we don't believe in you anymore." Mom would mention casually that Derek was working really hard. That things were challenging in the startup world. That investors were demanding. I'd nod sympathetically and say nothing. The beginning of the end came 27 months after Derek stole my pitch deck. OptimizeX had grown to 19 employees and $890,000 in annual revenue. Not terrible, but nowhere near the projections Derek had promised. The bridge investors wanted to see $3 million in revenue by now. They wanted profitability in sight. They wanted an exit strategy. Derek had none of those things. I knew because one of my Series A investors sat on OptimizeX's board. Venture capital is a small world. Information flows freely if you know where to listen. "Your brother's company is in trouble," my investor told me over coffee. "Board's pushing for a sale or shutdown. He's got maybe 6 months of runway left." What happens then? Probably bankruptcy. Maybe a fire sale acquisition if someone wants the customer list. I sipped my coffee. Interesting. Meanwhile, Catalyst Logistics was accelerating. We'd closed a $15 million Series B led by Sequoia. We had 94 enterprise customers. Our quarterly revenue hit $6.2 million. Our valuation reached $180 million. And I still hadn't told my family. 4 years after Derek stole my business plan, Mom planned a big birthday celebration. Her 60th. The whole family would be there. I RSVP'd yes. The week before the party, Derek's lawyer called him with bad news. OptimizeX's board had voted to shut down operations. They were filing for bankruptcy protection. The company would be liquidated. Derek called Dad in a panic. Dad called me. "Your brother's going through a difficult time," he said. "His company is closing. I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention your little consulting work this weekend. He needs our support." "Of course," I said. What Dad didn't know was that my little consulting work had generated $38 million in revenue over the past 12 months. What Derek didn't know was that I'd been tracking OptimizeX's bankruptcy proceedings closely. What none of them knew was that I'd submitted a stalking horse bid to acquire OptimizeX's assets. For $1. Mom's birthday party was at their country club. 60 people. Catered dinner. String quartet. Everything elegant and expensive the way Mom liked it. Derek arrived looking exhausted. He'd lost weight. His expensive suit hung a little loose. He smiled when people congratulated him on the venture, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. I wore a simple black dress. Low heels. Minimal jewelry. I looked exactly like what they thought I was. A mid-level product manager making decent money but nothing special. During cocktail hour I stood near the bar nursing a glass of wine. My phone was in my clutch. I'd been waiting for the confirmation all day. Derek found me. "Hey Jen." "Hey. How are you holding up?" He shrugged. "Tough. But that's startup life, right? Most companies fail." I heard. "I'm sorry." "Yeah." He took a long drink. "The timing sucks. I had real traction. Just needed another 12 months of runway. But investors." He trailed off. "And yeah, I'll bounce back. Maybe go back to consulting for a while. Maybe start something new." "I'm sure you will," I said. "How's your product manager thing going?" "It's fine. Steady." He nodded absently, already losing interest. In his mind I was still the little sister with the unremarkable career. Still the one who'd needed his help 4 years ago. My phone buzzed. I excused myself and checked the message. It was from my general counsel. Bankruptcy court approved the sale. OptimizeX assets acquired by Catalyst Logistics for $1. Effective immediately. Press release going out in 10 minutes. I took a breath. Then I texted my acquisition team. Execute the purchase agreement for Mitchell Tech $1 bankruptcy buyout. Mitchell Tech was OptimizeX's legal entity name. I hit send. 60 seconds later, Derek's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and answered. "This is Derek." "Yes, I know who you are." "What?" His face went pale. "What do you mean acquired? By who?" I watched him listen. Watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to something close to panic. Catalyst Logistics? I've never even... Wait, when did this happen? He looked around the room like someone might have answers. No, I don't understand. Who runs Catalyst? Who's the CEO? He was looking at his lawyer on speakerphone now. I could hear the tinny voice explaining the bankruptcy court's decision. The stalking horse bid was accepted this morning. Catalyst Logistics purchased all assets including customer contracts, intellectual property, and the OptimizeX trade name for $1 plus assumption of certain liabilities. $1. Derek's voice cracked. My company sold for $1? Several people at the party were starting to notice his agitation. Who is the CEO of Catalyst Logistics? Derek demanded. I want to know who bought my company. I could have let him find out from the press release. But where was the satisfaction in that? I walked over and stood next to him. Derek, I said quietly. That would be me. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. What? I took the phone from his hand. This is Jennifer Mitchell, I said to his lawyer. We can discuss the transition details on Monday. Please send the final documentation to my general counsel. I ended the call and handed the phone back to Derek. He whispered. You run Catalyst Logistics? I founded it 4 years ago, right after you took my pitch deck. But, you're a product manager. You never said. You never asked, I said. You assumed. There's a difference. Dad had noticed the commotion and walked over. What's going on? Dad, Derek said, voice hollow. Jen bought my company. For $1. Dad looked at me. What is he talking about? OptimizeX filed for bankruptcy last week, I explained calmly. The assets went to auction. My company, Catalyst Logistics, submitted the winning bid. We acquired everything for $1. Mom appeared, sensing drama. Jennifer, what's happening? Apparently our daughter has a company, Dad said slowly. A company large enough to acquire OptimizeX. How is that possible? Mom asked. You're a product manager. I was a product manager, I corrected. I left that job 2 years ago. I've been running Catalyst Logistics full-time since then. We just closed our Series B in January. $15 million round led by Sequoia. We're currently valued at $180 million. The silence that followed was profound. Derek found his voice first. $180 million? As of our last funding round, yes. But, how? When? I started building it the day after you stole my pitch deck, I said. Remember OptimizeX? The basic supply chain optimization platform? That was my first-generation technology. What I didn't show you was the predictive modeling layer. The AI that forecasts disruptions before they happen. That's what Catalyst is built on. And that's why we can reduce costs by 58% instead of your 35%. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You've been running a $180 million company for 4 years and never mentioned it? You never asked, I said. You were too busy celebrating Derek's success. But why buy OptimizeX? Derek asked desperately. Why now? Because you have 19 enterprise customers, I said. And customer acquisition in this market costs about $47,000 per account. I just acquired 19 customers for $1. That's a 99.998% discount. Excellent deal. Pi customers, Derek whispered. Your former customers, I corrected. As of this morning, they're mine. We'll be migrating them to the Catalyst platform over the next 60 days. Most of them will be thrilled. Our technology is significantly better. The few who aren't happy are free to leave, but I doubt many will. Mom looked like she might faint. Jennifer, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked. 4 years ago, Derek said I'd mess up a simple pitch meeting. Dad agreed. He thought I needed protection from myself. If I'd told you I was building a competitor, what would you have said? Silence. You would have told me to stop, I continued. You would have said I was being emotional, vindictive, that I should support Derek instead of competing with him. So I didn't tell you. I just built. Derek's hands were shaking. You did this to get back at me. No, I said. I did this to build a better company. The fact that it destroyed yours is just market dynamics. You had 4 years to execute. You had my initial technology. You had funding and customers and every advantage. You still failed. Because you kept the real technology for yourself. Yes, I said simply. I built something and you stole it. So I built something better and didn't tell you about it. That's called learning from experience. A few other party guests had drifted closer, sensing the tension. I recognized some of them. Family friends, Dad's business associates, people who'd watched Derek's rise and my apparent mediocrity for years. One of Dad's golf partners spoke up. Jennifer, did you say Catalyst Logistics? I just read about you in Forbes. Rising star CEOs under 35. That was you. Yes. The article said you turned down a $200 million acquisition offer from SAP. We did. The timing wasn't right. Mom actually gasped. $200 million? We're worth more than that now, I said. And we're growing at 40% quarter over quarter. We'll probably IPO in 18 months. Derek made a sound like he'd been punched. Dad's face had gone from shock to something harder. This is incredibly vindictive, Jennifer. Is it? I met his eyes. Derek stole my work. I built something better. He failed to execute. His company went bankrupt. I acquired the assets at market rate, which happened to be $1. Where's the vindictiveness? That's just business. He's your brother. And I was his sister when he took my pitch deck. He was trying to help you. Was he? I asked. Or was he trying to take something that made him look good? Be honest, Dad. Derek saw my work and thought, this is good enough to make me look brilliant. Not, my sister built something amazing. He saw an opportunity for himself. Dad opened his mouth and closed it again. Derek had tears in his eyes now. I lost everything, Jen. My company. My reputation. My investors' money. I have nothing. You have your Harvard MBA, I said. Your McKinsey experience. Your network. All the advantages you've always had. You'll land on your feet. You always do. But you destroyed me. No, I said quietly. You destroyed yourself. I just built something better while you were failing with my original idea. Mom stepped between us. Jennifer, please. Can't you help him? You have so much now. Surely you can. Can what? I interrupted. Give him a job. Invest in his next venture. Pretend the last 4 years didn't happen. He's family. He's family when he needs something, I said. 4 years ago when I needed support, when I needed someone to believe in me, where was this family loyalty? Derek took my work. Dad approved. You told me to be grateful for the stress relief. Now I'm supposed to forget that because he failed. I picked up my clutch. I'm going to leave before this gets worse. Happy birthday, Mom. I'm sorry your party got disrupted. Jennifer, wait. But I was already walking toward the exit. Dad caught up with me in the parking lot. Jennifer. Please. We need to talk about this. What's there to talk about? Your brother is devastated. Your mother is upset. The whole family is in shock. I imagine so. He grabbed my arm. Not hard but firm enough to stop me. I'm asking you as your father to help Derek. Give him a position at your company. Help him recover. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. Let me tell you what's going to happen, Dad. Derek's 19 OptimizeX customers will migrate to Catalyst over the next 60 days. We'll offer their employees positions at competitive salaries. Most will accept because our company is growing and stable. Derek will have to decide what to do next, and I genuinely hope he finds something good. That's it. What else is there? He's your brother. And I'm your daughter, I said. I built something extraordinary. I turned $1 into $180 million in 4 years. I created 127 jobs. I revolutionized an industry. And the first thing you said to me when you found out wasn't, congratulations. It was, this is vindictive. He flinched. I don't need your approval anymore, I continued. I don't need your support or advice or validation. I stopped needing those things the day Derek took my pitch deck and you told him to run with it. I learned to build without you. Jennifer. I hope you and Mom have a wonderful evening, I said. I really do. But I'm done pretending to be smaller than I am so everyone else can feel comfortable. I got in my car, a Tesla Model S that I'd bought outright last year, and drove away. The press release went out the next morning. TechCrunch ran it as a headline story. Catalyst Logistics acquires competitor OptimizeX for $1 in bankruptcy sale. By afternoon, Forbes had picked it up. Jennifer Mitchell's quiet revenge. CEO acquires brother's failed startup. By evening, it was trending on LinkedIn with think pieces about ethics, family businesses, and competitive dynamics. My phone exploded with messages. Reporters requesting interviews. Industry analysts wanting comments. Former colleagues saying, "I knew you'd do something amazing." Derek's phone, I heard later, also exploded. But his messages were different. Investors asking what happened. Customers demanding explanations. Employees wanting to know if they still had jobs. I sent a company-wide email to OptimizeX's staff. Catalyst Logistics is excited to welcome OptimizeX customers and employees to our family. We'll be reaching out individually this week with transition plans and employment offers. We believe in taking care of people who do great work. 15 of Derek's 19 employees accepted positions at Catalyst within 10 days. All 19 customers completed their migration within 45 days. Derek, I heard through mutual connections, took a director-level position at his old consulting firm. A step down from CEO. A significant blow to his ego. But well-paid and respectable. Mom called 3 weeks later. "Jennifer, I think we need to talk." "Okay. I've been reading about your company. I had no idea how successful you've become." "I know. I wish you'd told us." "Why?" I asked. "So you could tell me I was working too hard? That I should slow down and find a husband? That Derek's company was the one that mattered." Silence. "Mom, I love you. But you chose sides 4 years ago. You decided Derek was the one worth celebrating and I was the one who needed protecting from my own ambition. I'm not angry about it anymore. But I'm also not interested in pretending it didn't happen." "What do you want from us?" she asked quietly. "Nothing," I said. "I don't need anything from you. I built a life where I don't need rescuing or approval or validation from people who didn't believe in me. I'm happy. I'm successful. I'm surrounded by people who saw my potential when it wasn't obvious. That's enough." "So you're just cutting us off?" "No," I said. "I'm just not pretending anymore. You're welcome in my life, Mom. You and Dad and Derek. But on honest terms. I'm not the family failure anymore. I'm not the one who needs help. And I'm done acting grateful when people are condescending. That's not fair." "It's completely fair," I said. "If you want to be part of my life going forward, you're welcome. But you're going to have to see me as I actually am. Not as the person you thought I was." He was crying now. "I'm sorry, Jennifer. I didn't realize. I didn't understand." "I know," I said, and I meant it. "But now you do. So the question is, what happens next?" 6 months later, Catalyst Logistics announced our Series C, $45 million led by Andreessen Horowitz at a $420 million valuation. We had 147 enterprise customers. Quarterly revenue hit $12.1 million. We employed 243 people across 4 offices. I was featured on the cover of Fortune magazine, the CEO who built an empire in silence. The article told the whole story. Derek stealing my pitch deck. Building Catalyst in secret. The $1 acquisition. The vindication. It went viral. Some people called me ruthless. Others called me brilliant. Most called me both. I didn't care. I'd stopped caring what people thought when I decided to build something great instead of asking permission. Derek and I spoke for the first time in 8 months at Dad's retirement party. "Congratulations on the Series C," he said stiffly. "Thank you. How's consulting?" "It's fine. Stable." He paused. "I read the Fortune article." "Yeah. You made me sound pretty bad." "I told the truth," I said. "If that made you look bad, that's not my fault." He nodded slowly. "I guess I deserve that." "Probably." We stood in awkward silence. "For what it's worth," Derek said quietly, "I'm sorry. I convinced myself I was helping you. But really I just saw something good and took it because I could. As I always could. Because Dad always let me." I looked at him carefully. His eyes were different. Humbler. Maybe failure had taught him something after all. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "Does it change anything?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe someday. But not yet." He nodded. "Fair enough." 18 months later, Catalyst Logistics filed for our IPO. We priced at $28 per share, valuing the company at $1.8 billion. On opening day, the stock hit $47 per share. My stake was worth $680 million. Mom and Dad were there for the opening bell at NASDAQ. Mom cried. Dad looked proud and confused, like he wasn't sure when everything changed. Derek sent flowers to my office with a card. You were always smarter than me. I just didn't want to admit it. Congratulations. You earned this. Kept the card. Not because it fixed anything, but because it was honest. And after 4 years of silence and secrets and strategic patience, honesty felt like the only thing worth keeping. People ask me sometimes if I regret the way things happened. If I wish I'd handled it differently. If destroying my brother's company was worth it. I tell them the truth. I didn't destroy Derek's company. The market destroyed it. I just built something better. Derek had every advantage. My technology. Investor funding. Customer traction. Support from our family. He failed because he couldn't execute. Because he didn't understand the technology deeply enough. Because he thought the idea was the hard part when really the hard part is building something that lasts. I succeeded because I had to. Because when someone steals your work, you have 2 choices. Complain about injustice or build something they can't steal. I chose to build. And in the end, that made all the difference.